All right, welcome to another episode of Double B Creates. This is Kevin and Brad, who are interviewing the movers, shakers, and anyone who's self-employed. Today we're talking to somebody who is, again, in another industry that we haven't talked to before, and I really like the idea of what you're working on. So I'm not going to ramble too much, but I'll let you go for it. But for anyone who's listening, this is Nathan Hirsch, and I'm very thankful for you giving us the time.
Yeah, no problem. We're really excited to be here.
So what is it that you're working on, man?
Yeah, so I'm a longtime entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 20. I've never had a real job outside of some college internships and summer jobs when I was in high school. But yeah, I started off as an Amazon seller. I was a broke college kid looking for extra beer money on the side, and I started buying and selling textbooks, and that led me down the Amazon path. I got in at a really good time. This was 2008, 2009, and there wasn't a lot of there were no courses or gurus teaching you how to sell on Amazon. So I kind of just figured it out and did a lot of trial and error and learned how to sell baby products and toys at a high level, and which I did for years. And throughout that process, I had to hire people for this growing business, and people didn't really take me seriously being that young as an entrepreneur. So I had to turn to the remote hiring world, the Upworks, the Fivers, if you guys have ever heard of them. And I always just wanted something faster. I hated posting a job, getting 100 applicants, interviewing them one by one. And I thought I could build a better marketplace myself. So that's what I set out to do 4 years ago. I started the Free Up Marketplace, a marketplace where you would get that, or the marketplace would get thousands of applicants every week, vet them, top 1% get in, clients get fast access to them with great support on the back end and protection. If someone quits, we'd cover replacement costs. And people really liked it. We organically grew from $5,000 investment to doing over $12 million a year, our fourth year. And we were acquired 90 days ago. And now I'm working on a new project, Outsource School. If you go to outsourceschool.com, where we teach people how to use VAs and scale businesses, just like we did at Free Up, because we grew the entire platform using virtual assistants. So that's kind of the short version of how I went from a textbook seller to a baby product seller to running a freelance marketplace to now Outsource School.
So are you a father?
I'm not. No, I have two dogs.
So why would you sell baby products?
Yeah, great question. And it was, I never really used baby products. It was all trial and error. I tried stuff that I was familiar with, like DVDs, computer games, sporting equipment, and I just failed over and over and over. And the only thing I could get to sell were these books, and I didn't really see a long-term future in selling books. I had nowhere to store them. They were big. They were heavy. I ended up getting a cease and desist letter from my college telling me to knock it off because I was competing with their bookstore. So I didn't want to get kicked out of school, and I just kept experimenting. And eventually I listed some baby products, and those sold, and I listed more, and those sold. And I wish I could tell you I had some algorithm or some crazy research, but back then there was no Amazon software or anything. It was a lot of trial and error.
That makes sense. It was try this, that worked. Try this, that failed. Try this, that failed. But I think if you really think about it, if you want to get a little weird and deep, there's two things you can always count on, right? There's always going to be people wanting to make babies because that's fun, and people are always going to die, right?
Funeral homes and baby products, top two industries.
Yeah.
It's the truth. Yeah. Looking back at it, it makes total sense. At the time, that's not at all what I was thinking.
Well, the other thing is a lot of people don't know where to start too. And so they wouldn't even think about going to that as well because they kind of tailspin.
Yeah. For me, I'm not a big planner. My business partner is, but if you had asked me 10 years ago if I'd be selling baby products on Amazon, I wouldn't have believed you. If you asked me 5 years ago if I'd be running a freelancer marketplace, I wouldn't have believed you. And if you asked me a year ago if my freelance marketplace was going to be acquired, I wouldn't have believed you. So for me, it's a lot about trying different things. And I tend to stay away from what everyone else is doing. Everyone else are trying to start a marketing agency. They're trying to, I don't know. But for me, it's like I got into Amazon before everyone was doing it. I got out of Amazon once everyone started doing it. No one was building freelance platforms. Maybe now people are copying me and doing more of that, but that's kind of my mentality.
Yeah, just kind of being ahead of the game and working your own angle, more or less.
For sure. And as soon as I said that, I realized like now I'm launching a course, an education platform with Outsource School, which is what a lot of people are doing. But for me, I was being asked for years throughout FreeUp to build a course teaching people how to use VAs. So to me, it was kind of a low hanging fruit where if we launch this and it helps a lot of people, great. We have a lot of ideas of software and other courses and things that we want to do to help other entrepreneurs delegate and grow their business. And if it doesn't work out, I'll learn from it and go do something else.
Cool. What was the biggest thing that you, I want to say, failed at or learned from when you got started?
So about year 1.5, I was really stressed out. I was running this business. It was growing. And I thought it'd be a good idea to hire a manager of the day. So I hired one person and I taught him to do everything in my business, customer service, listing products, changing prices, and spent about 6 months training him. And on the flip side, I had this one manufacturer who was doing 80% of our sales. And I said, you know what? I don't care about the other manufacturers. Let's just focus on this guy. So my business is an autopilot. I got one guy running everything. I got one manufacturer we're buying products from. Business is good. Life is good. It's simpler. It's easier. I'm less stressed out. And I go on vacation to Myrtle Beach and I'll never go back. On the first day of my vacation, I get a phone call that my manager today quit on me and that the supplier dropped me. And then just to top it off, I get a third phone call telling me someone had filed a fake tax return in my name and stolen my identity. And I was going to have to deal with that mess when I got home. They stole $40,000 from the government. So I went from this unbelievable high to I'm this 21-year-old entrepreneur making all this money. No one can touch me to let's start this thing all over again and build it up from scratch. But I learned a very valuable lesson about diversifying it and not putting all your eggs in one basket. And when I got back, I started contacting lots of manufacturers, and within 6 months, we worked with over 300 manufacturers, and wouldn't be the last manufacturer that dropped me, but next time it wasn't as big of a deal. And once it was time to hire more people, I didn't make that same mistake again. I hired 2 people for customer service, 2 people to list products, 2 people to reprice. So if they quit on me, I just had to retrain them for that particular task and not the whole business all over again. So that was a pretty devastating time, but I'm really happy that happened in year 1 and 2 and not in year 6 or 7.
Well, that's also a good thing to understand, because a lot of people say, you know, if only one thing isn't getting you all of your income, then what's wrong with your first item, when you should have your multiple streams of items that are making you money?
Right. And I totally agree. And I think sometimes people take it too far. Like if they have 5 businesses and each business is like not doing very well, but they have 5 like okay revenue streams, maybe it makes more sense to focus on one and drive it if they're passionate about it or that business has some potential. But I mean, for the most part, diversifying in and outside of every business is good, whether it's the stock market with your money and real estate, or whether it's hiring different people so that no one in your company is irreplaceable, or whether it's on the manufacturer or supplier side, like I talked about. So diversifying as much as possible within reason is a good lesson for most entrepreneurs.
You know, it's kind of funny. I didn't necessarily like get into it, but I kind of got into a weird conversation the other day, and the individual, who I respect extremely highly, was like, if something's wrong with your business to cause you to be in another business, you need to focus on that initial one. And I was like, what about multiple sources of income, which MSI is, we all refer to it. And he was like, you shouldn't have to. And I was like, well, it makes sense, because if somebody all of a sudden bails on you, instead of being screwed, it's not that hard of a blow. So what's your opinion on that? I mean, like you mentioned already, that if you have 5 businesses that all kind of work, but they aren't great, focus on one. Is it a balance thing? Like, do you believe in putting all your eggs in one basket?
So for me personally, I like to focus on one business at a time. I mean, running FreeUp for the past 4 years, that was my only focus. Right now, I'm only focused on Outsource School. I find that if I'm doing lots of different things, it kind of pulls me from it. But I think there's a different kind of entrepreneur that if you can put someone in the driver's seat, if you have 3 businesses, and each one has a manager that's not only managing day-to-day operations, but they're also growing the business even when you're not there. I think that's when it allows you to do that. And I think some entrepreneurs get in the trap where they're just running 3 different businesses. They are the 3 different businesses, which usually doesn't work long-term. But if you get the right people in place you have 3 businesses that are on autopilot driving forward without you, that's where entrepreneurs want to be. And I think that's kind of the next level for me, is getting businesses to a spot where it's doing that and I can back off and get to that level.
Makes perfect sense. Focus on one so much that it's all automated without you, and then start a new one and run that venture to the same point. And then, yeah, I like it.
For sure.
So you just recently were acquired, the FreeUp was acquired. And now you're working on a new one, outsource school. And you had mentioned that it's talking about hiring VAs, which is a virtual assistant. Let's talk about that. How's that going?
It's good. So we're working on our first course right now called Cracking the Code on Virtual Assistants, our IOTM method. And IOTM is IOTM, which stands for Interview, Onboard, Train, and Manage. And with FreeUp, we had no U.S. employees. We grew the entire business with 35 VAs in the Philippines. And we didn't just wake up one day and hire 35 people. And we didn't just cross our fingers and hope that 35 people did a good job. We had systems and processes. So when we interviewed them, we found the rock stars. Before we got started with them, we set expectations and made sure we were on the same page. When we did train them, we were fast and efficient, and we valued our time, and they got a lot out of it. And then once we've invested all this time, money, and energy into someone, we kept them around. We had low turnover. Turnover kills businesses. And we did that by appreciating them and having great meetings and challenging them and giving bonuses and raises and having a structure for different things. So I think a lot of people out there either have never hired a VA before, or they've hired someone and they've had issues, or maybe they hired someone and they've had some success, but there's something that they could do better. And we want to show people how we do it, what our systems are, what our processes are. And hopefully a lot of people can take that information and copy it or tweak it to their business and be able to scale better and faster. Because the difference between good businesses and bad businesses a lot of time is, how well are you hiring? Are you hiring 90% success rate, or are you hiring 30% success rate? And you can't do it all yourself. At some point, you have to hire, you have to delegate. And the entrepreneurs that can do that really well take their business to the next level.
Okay, so basically you're just trying to slipstream the entire process, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we want to teach people, hey, we call it our CARE method. Here are the 16 interview questions that you should ask and what you should be looking for, so that you know that what the red flags are. That's the R in CARE. Or you know what their attitude is, which is the A. And here's traits that we know from 10 years of experience that you want in a virtual assistant. And these are all things that I wish someone had told me back in the day. It took me 5 years to build a good hiring process. And now that we have it, we have the unique opportunity to share it with people around the world. And that's what we want to do with Outsource School.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. I like the idea. I think that you're really going to go far with it.
I appreciate it. I hope so.
It almost seems like, I want to say almost everybody that we've talked to so far has at least one VA. And we've worked with a couple of them, and some of them are definitely a lot better than others.
Yeah, but you see right there, like that's kind of the mentality that we want to tweak. It's like, okay, focus on what you can control, right? There's so much stuff out there you can't control, but what was your interview process like? Did you do a good job setting expectations? Did you cut bait early on during training when you saw it wasn't going to work out, or did you keep investing time into them? And when you do find that great VA, did you do everything to keep them around? And I don't know your specific situation, but I think there's a lot of people out there that hire a few VAs and then they have a bad experience. They're like, oh, hiring's not for me. I'm going to do everything myself. But to me, that's crazy. I mean, hiring is just another part of business. You wouldn't market for a little while and then marketing, you have a bad experience marketing and be like, oh, that's it. I'm just not going to market anymore. But so many people do that with hiring. And we kind of want to change that mentality to focus on what you can control. And that's the systems and processes of when you hire someone.
So I like that too, because this is something that we haven't really discussed in the past, but this is just like, and we have discussed rungs on the ladder, basically. Like, you've got to get launched, you got to get over the fear barrier, you've got to take the leap and just go. And then once it starts to work, like even with just this podcast alone, I mean, we're spending so much damn time just talking and planning and stuff like that. Like, I think 5% of the time that we spend is recording.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we're not to that point yet to get to hiring a VA, but the potential of having one and freeing up that much time for us is going to be life-changing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time that I hired someone and I taught him to do customer service. And that day that I woke up, that I didn't have to answer customer service emails anymore. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that motivates you as an entrepreneur. It kind of re-energizes you. The entrepreneurs that have just done the same thing every day for years, they're demotivated. They're stressed out. It becomes more of a job than it becomes a business. And it's really rewarding when I got to work with people at FreeUp for 4 years that they would hire a VA and eventually get them to do these tasks. And they would come to me and be like, Nate, this changed my life, that now I can focus on scaling, marketing, expansion for my business and not do the same repetitive stuff every single day.
And I think not only changing what you're doing in a day from the same, so on and so forth, not only relieves stress, but it almost revitalizes you.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. That day that I woke up that I didn't have to answer customer service emails, I mean, that was probably one of the most productive months of that year, because I was just all about it. I knew that was off my plate. I trusted the person that did it, which is a big part of it. You don't want to hand it over to someone if you don't trust that they're going to do a good job. But when you have a rock star team like we had at FreeUp, and that's by far the worst part of selling FreeUp, is I don't get to work with that team anymore, but it just allows you to focus your energy elsewhere. And that's what business owners a lot of time need to do.
Well, here's a good example too, is we took pretty much like the second half of January to the first half of February off and said, we're not talking to anybody. We totally killed our calendar and everything. And we spent that time learning video editing, photo editing, planning, making lists, who we want to talk to. And it was the same thing. I mean, we went from like, I feel like begging people to be on our show because we're just starting out. We're up to, by the time this one goes up, we're going to be at like 25 episodes, which is pretty small in the podcast world. But as it stands, I think we've got 7 interviews lined up in the last 24 hours alone.
Yeah, I think 7.
And so that planning and everything, like rewriting our pitch and stuff, has just been phenomenal. Plus we hired a podcast expert and stuff like that to I guess, apprentice under. So it's just nice to be able to step back and just take in everything that's going on, plan for the future, and then just execute it without having to do everything over and over and over and over again.
Right. Completely agree. And I would argue that most entrepreneurs, they're really only good at 1 to 3 things. Right. And once you start pulling them out of those things, stuff isn't done at such a high level, or there's an investment factor in it. I mean, you can't master everything. You don't have enough time to be a Facebook ad expert and a video editing expert and a great bookkeeper. At some point, you got to pick and choose and be like, hey, these are the things I'm good at, and I'm going to hire for everything else. And I'm going to hire people that are better than me at everything else. And I think sometimes once that light bulb goes off for entrepreneurs, that's when they really get it and when their business starts growing.
Yeah, you have to admit the areas in which you are not the best.
Well, and
it's difficult for a lot of people to say, I fucking suck at this, so I'm going to hire it out, you know?
Well, and that's one thing I think that we kind of strive at is I suck at what Kevin does, and Kevin sucks at what I do. So it's like, okay, you deal with that, I'll deal with this, and it'll be smooth for now.
Yeah, same with my partner. I mean, that's why we've been working together for 8 years. The key is we have the same values and the same beliefs. We believe in treating people well and high level of customer service and not putting out a product if it's not high quality and all that. But skill wise, we couldn't be more different.
Yeah. Like he does all of our video editing and stuff like that. He cuts all the stuff down. I do all of the social media type stuff. So it just, I don't know, we just found a balance. And if you can find somebody to work with, it's nice from the beginning because A, you have an accountability partner built into your business. B, you've got somebody that can do all the stuff that you can't or aren't skilled at. And it just, I don't know, it just makes it a lot easier because you have somebody else that's like, hey, we've got this going on. We got to do this. We got to do this. And even on the days that you don't want to, I think if I was working solo, I'd be like, nah, screw it. Some days I would just, and that's just being honest. When you don't want to do something, you just don't.
Right. Completely agree. And I mean, that's kind of the beauty of it is when you get to that point as an entrepreneur, if you don't want to do something, it's all right. I'm not going to do something. I'm just going to hire someone else to do it.
When you're to that level, yeah.
Right.
When you have the ability to do so.
Yeah, it'll be nice once we can get to that point, but we got to get to it first.
Completely agree.
Well, cool, man. Where can people find information on Outsource School?
Yeah, if you go to outsourceschool.com, we have an awesome newsletter there. You can join it. We give out free tips and tricks on how to use VAs. We also have a VA calculator if you want to figure out how many VAs your business can actually afford right now. If you go to outsourceschool.com/VA calculator. And yeah, we're going to look for a lot of feedback. I mean, we want to make this as helpful as possible to people, and we appreciate people checking out the site.
On that note with feedback too, I think the best feedback is the most honest.
Yeah, of course.
I love it when people are like Brad's wife, for example, the other day he goes, you keep saying that you're excited and your intro is the same, but you're so monotoned that it kind of sucks. Like your intro is garbage. And I was like, sweet, I'm changing it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry. Don't say it. We need it.
Like, so if you, any feedback is great. And I think that's a trait that is hard for a lot of people to learn is you're going to get positive feedback, which is going to help you like boost your, what's the word? It's going to make you feel warm and fuzzy, I guess. But then you're going to get that negative feedback. But if you can take feedback in the correct way, every piece of feedback you're ever going to get is going to be positive and constructive, depending on how you want to take it.
Yeah, and I'll say even for virtual assistants, that's where a lot of people go wrong. They hire their VA and they're not asking for feedback. And feedback is a two-way loop. I mean, you should be giving feedback to your VA so they can improve because they might have worked with other clients that want completely different things than you, and vice versa. You should be asking for feedback so you can get better as a manager, as an owner. And when I first hired a VA from the Philippines, Chicky Ann, who I've worked with for 8+ years, I told her, I was like, listen, I've never worked with someone in the Philippines before. Tell me what your favorite client does. Like, what makes him so good? Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Like, why are people quitting on me? And she told me, hey, your communication's bad. It's too harsh. You can't talk to people in the Philippines like that. We're more shy. We're more emotional. So I learned that way. And the only reason that I learned it is because I asked for that feedback.
Yeah.
It's understandable. So I guess it's a good segue into this. We only have one scripted question for all of our podcasts because it kind of catches everybody off guard.
All right.
So to you, what is your personal idea of success?
Yeah, good question. So growing up, my family, we weren't poor, but my parents were both teachers, so middle class. But I went to a school next to me that my dad taught to. So I lived in East Long Meadow, went to school in Long Meadow. My dad was a teacher at Long Meadow High School, had a much better school system. And because I was his son, I was able to go there. Well, the thing about Long Meadow High School is it was a very rich town. All the parents of the kids of the school were doctors, lawyers, dentists, businessmen. And while I was over here middle class, they were getting every video game in the world, nice cars, big houses. So at the time, money was incredibly motivating. And I growing up, I was like, oh my God, if I could make a lot of money, that's success. Well, with the Amazon business, I made a good amount of money. And that gets old pretty quick, especially when you're just helping yourself. I mean, who was I helping in the Amazon business? Me, my suppliers, my business partner, and maybe the employees. And at the time, I didn't really even know how to treat people that well anyway. So I think that got old. And one of the things about FreeUp was I got to help all these different people. I got to help freelancers from around the world. We paid out millions of dollars to freelancers each year, helping them with their families. People are showing me their cars, their houses, stuff they were able to buy. And on the flip side, we're helping clients, people who have their own dreams of growing a business, and we were able to help them do it. So yes, FreeUp grew and we had success there, but everyone had success around it. The freelancers benefited, the businesses benefited. So to me, it's getting the top and making a lot of money or whatever your goals are, but having the people around you get to the top with you. So you're not standing up here and everyone else is down here. So that's kind of what I've learned and how I define success.
I like it.
Another good, different answer. It's still pretty darn close to the same to all of them.
Really?
Yeah.
It almost seems like the smaller the mind, the more it's going to be directed towards being rich, basically.
Right.
And the bigger the mind and is going to be more helping people, fulfilling your inner desires, stuff like that. That's not even mentioning monetization of anything. So
a lot of people don't know what to do with money, even if they have it. Like if you ask people like, what are you going to do with the money? A lot of times they don't even know. And then they get there with the money and they weren't happy before. They're not happy after. So it's like, all right, what makes you happy outside of money? And if you can't figure that out, then it's tough.
Right. And I'm not going to say who out of respect, but I read a post on social media 2 days ago. It was the anniversary of his daughter passing away. He had 2 kids. He lost both of them.
Oh my God.
And he said something along the lines of, I have a shitload of money and I can buy anything I want, but it's true what they say. You can have everything in the world, but that's never going to make you happy. He said, the only thing that's ever going to make me happy is bringing my 2 kids back. And so that really kind of like, I already had it registered in my brain, but that like just drove it home. I was like, I can't imagine losing your own kid, let alone 2 of them, so.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs, like they're working the 60, 70 hours a week, but they're forgetting like why they did that to begin with. You did it. You became an entrepreneur to be able to have more freedom and flexibility to spend time with your family, which the little time that we all have. So it all kind of goes full circle. I mean, that kind of goes into delegating and hiring and why you should be doing it. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, you said it way better than I could. But we're on the same page.
That's a first. We have our first guest appearance on Friday, and I'm like, we suck at talking so bad. That's why we interview and not be interviewed. So it's going to be weird.
Yeah. Kevin's like, hey, we got this. And I'm like, oh, shit.
You guys will do great.
He's like, what did you do to me?
Okay, I guess let's figure out how bad we are.
But no, I think that you're going to put in the time and the effort required in order to achieve your dream and your ultimate goal. And at that point, you can start delegating, and that's what makes it worth it, because then you are free to spend that time with your family and things like that. So you can also plan your days off and things like that a lot easier than if you were working for somebody else. So
right.
Once you know that it,
not hate it.
Yeah. Once you know that something's right for you, you're definitely going to put in the work to get to that point. And, it's just one of those things when exactly. It's going to take sacrifice to get there, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Do you have anything else, Brad?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I think we're going to cut you a little short so you can get back to your family and things like that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys having me on. If anyone wants to follow me or learn more about virtual assistants, go to outsourceschool.com or follow me on social media, The Real Nate Hirsch. Yeah, I love connecting with people. So I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, and wishing you guys best success with the podcast. Good luck with your interviews, and hopefully people listening got a lot out of this.
I think they will. It's a really good topic, and it's one of those things, like I said, it's just rungs up the ladder, so as soon as it registers in the brain, you're like, oh wait, yeah, I need this shit. So they're going to come to you. I think it's a fantastic idea.
I hope so. Well, have a great rest of the week, and thanks for having me on.